think I can just unplug it. Yeah, and then if we have to plug it in at some time, it's sure over there. Yeah. You didn't hear it? Good afternoon, everyone. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Dale Dalton, why don't you come up with invocation? Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, please bow your head. As we gather here today as members of Rotary, we pray that we are ever mindful of opportunities to render our service to fellow citizens and to our community. Keeping in mind always the enduring values of life, exerting our efforts in those areas, and on those things upon which future generations can build with confidence. Let us continue to strive to make a better world. Amen.
Oh, while we're still standing, let's go ahead and read the Rotary four-way test. Of all the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? You may be seated. Thank you. Before any announcements today, I want to recognize the elected officials we have with us today. Marinnette Miller-Meeks is our second presenter. I heard she's going to be coming in hot, so we'll respect her time frame, but when she gets here, she'll join Chris at the head table. We have Chris Cournoyer from District 35, which includes Clinton County. Welcome, Chris. There are other elected officials here with us today. We have, yes. We have Mayor Scott Madison. Thank you for being here. Councilwoman Rhonda Kearns. And then I've been scanning the crowd. Is there anyone I've missed? We thought maybe Tom Detterman may be coming in later. So welcome to all of you. Thanks for being here with us. Just a couple announcements from me, everyone. First, I wanted to take a moment to remember our neighboring Rotarian, Bill Tubbs. He passed away a week ago, and I did not take time last Monday. So I wanted to just remember him. He's from the North Scott Rotary Club and was very, very active with our district newsletter and many other things in our district. So he will just all keep him and keep his family in our thoughts, please. I wanted to also share, Reverend Jimenez has a sign-up sheet going around for the community Thanksgiving meal. That sign-up is going to continue to circulate, but I just, people, what, Dennis?
You're going to stop in Marinnette.
Oh, good, okay. Anyway, the Thanksgiving sign-up will continue to circulate, so if you have questions about that, please reach out to Reverend Jimenez. I wanted to let everyone know, I mentioned this last week, I did join the University District of Seattle for their Rotary meeting last Friday afternoon, and it was awesome. And this is the connection that Brenda Diamond has made for our club and for the Seattle club. So we partner with them on the greenhouse project in Mexico. A quick program preview for October for everyone. Monday, October 7th, we have Merle joining us. He's also a North Scott Rotarian. Chris, your club is so active. He's going to be presenting a second presentation on the Imbabazi Center for Women in Uganda. So hope everyone can be here next week for that. We do not meet on the 14th. That's Columbus Day and Indigenous Peoples Day. So we'll observe that holiday as a club, those holidays. October 21st is the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. And then the 28th, we're going to have a panel presentation observing World Polio Day. So we have a handful of Rotarians and community members who will talk with us about polio, and in particular Rotary's efforts to eradicate polio. I know we have an announcement regarding some pork. Come on up.
You'll find on your tables this very well designed flyer that has this QR code for Pork Some Pork that's happening not this Friday, but next Friday on the 11th. If you scan that QR code, which I know we all like to do, you can just place your order and pay for it. It's a pulled pork sandwich, cookie chips, honestly the best baked beans I've ever had. I feel like there's something else. It's a good deal, and we'll deliver it to you just free of charge. Please consider placing an order so that we can help support the local United Way.
I know there are Boo Bash announcements, is that correct? While you make your way up here to make those Boo Bash announcements, I want to share that we still are collecting bottles for the booze wagon. Isn't this one gorgeous? It's going to be added to the booze wagon. So just a reminder to bring your donations, wine, spirits, etc. And we're going to keep that barrel down at Rusty Barrel to get some more interest in those tickets for the booze bash.
So we have less than 30 days now to October 25th, which is the sixth annual Boo Bash. If the 3 pending sponsorship donations come in, we have exceeded our sponsorship goal. So now our focus is on donations. So thank you to everyone who was here last week and took part in helping gather those donations. We are still looking for basket and auction items, so put on your thinking caps and come up with some ideas that can help us with this. So we're in the last 30 days, so now it's all hands on deck. So I'm going to pass it over to Paul.
Wow, have I ever had an incredible morning. I had 28 people banging on my door this morning, offering to donate items to the Rotary Boo Bash auction. Now, if you believe that, I've got a bridge to sell you somewhere. But I did talk to 2 people this morning and asked them for a donation, and they agreed. And so we've got a couple of nice items coming in from them. I was talking to somebody not long ago about the Green Bay Packer autographed football that we have in the auction, and he said, well, how'd you get that? And I said, I asked. And that's the formula we need to ask. People are willing to donate, they're willing to support, but we need to ask them. And so I'm asking you to reach out to folks and ask them for donations to the Rotary auction. There are forms on the table. Please take those along. You know, to collect collectively, you know more people than the folks on the committee. If you're willing to help the committee, I'm asking you to contact Heather. She'll put you in touch with people to invite to donate. And I'm asking each one of you and students, as well as our guests, got a lot of great guests here today, some of whom have donated in the past. Yes. I'm asking you to donate to the Rotary auction too. So please take the forms, ask people that you know, think about yourself. I'm asking you to donate, and that includes students. We've had some great student donations in the past. So what could you do to support the Rotary Boo Bash? We've got room for a lot more auction items. I'm asking you to fill the list. Thank you.
All right, we did run through the roster of elected officials, but welcome also to Dustin Johnson and Jim Irwin. Thanks, guys, for being here at Rotary today.
Oh, and Tom.
And Tom, I said your name, Tom, I'm sorry, you weren't. Welcome, Tom. I said it before you got here, sorry. All right, fellowship, Andy Ferguson is up. This is, for those who may not be aware, this is how we raise money for our annual scholarship fund. So Andy Ferguson.
Thanks for that round of warm applause. We'd like to welcome all our guests. I won't announce our speakers, we'll let them do that, but we'd like to welcome Lynn McGraw. You have a guest with you. Would you like to?
I am a member of Rotary for a long time, her and her husband. And she also had the secretary's job for quite a few years, 10 years.
Well, so don't mess it up. She's walking. Jennifer Gray. A million. You always have 100 guests, so.
I have, the mayor of the and our corporate council. And Rachel Anderson, and she is the support staff person for Marinnette Rotary. And Mama J, I know her uncle Virgil well. And I think that's her. Well, there's Justin, Jim. Yeah, Bob.
Good job. Thanks for coming, everybody. And we've got some students from Prince of Peace, Fulton High, and Clinton and Northeast. So who's introducing from Prince of Peace? Go ahead.
I have two young gentlemen here that are second time.
All right, veterans.
And Logan, and what school are you guys?
Prince of Peace.
Graduating Steve.
All right. We'll have you sing and dance another day. And Fulton High, who's got?
I got them. Two steamers here. They're both seniors. They're both coming back.
All right.
I'm Marinnette, that's been on the scene here.
I'm restored and I'm.
Awesome.
And their favorite class is stats. They'll be here.
All right.
We have one member, a rebel from her piece.
I'm Addison Holden.
A senior.
A senior, yeah.
She'll be coming back.
All right.
And we have one junior.
I'm Addison Lorenzo.
All right. All right, well, we're glad to have you. I think we covered all the birthdays and anniversaries before. Do you want me to do that again? All right. So let's get into fellowship. Again, this is how we raise money for scholarships for our local students. So if you enjoy this game, we encourage you to give generously so that we can fill that fund and support the students each year. With the program today, I wanted to have our trivia be more political. And Halloween's coming, and sometimes that's scary. So I wrote some political trivia questions, but it seemed like Jeopardy was pretty popular last time, so I put them into categories, and I'll let you pick your topic. I have 3 topics this time. They are women in politics, past presidents, and a miscellaneous category that lets you it's kind of a catch-all category. So I don't have them valued. They're just, you pick one, it's going to be worth $5 if you get it wrong or right. It doesn't matter. So, all right. So we'll start at the back table. Ray, your table. What category do you want? Women, presidents, or miscellaneous? Presidents. Here we go. This question is, how many past presidents have served a term longer than 8 years?
What is one?
One president has. Many have been eligible, but only one has been president longer than 8 years. Who was it? Franklin Delano Roosevelt, right. The ones that could have served longer either didn't run or weren't reelected for their, like they served the beginning of a term for somebody after an assassination or a resignation, were elected once and then didn't run for what would have been their second term. Okay, Gary, your table.
We're outnumbered here, so we're gonna do the,
What's that?
we'll do the category on women.
Category on women. Okay. Who was the first lady elected to public office? So not the first woman elected, but the first lady elected to public office. So the first former president's wife elected to public office. And you were all alive for it, so it wasn't that long ago. Okay, this Jeopardy song is over, so.
That's a big clue.
I gave you a huge hint when I said you were alive. That is a table full of young people, Gary.
I know it.
They were all.
Hillary Clinton is correct. She was the first lady elected to public office. Senator Hillary Clinton. Why?
Because they were not alive.
They were alive for Hillary Clinton, though. They got it right, Andy. Mind your own business. Jeez. All right. Dave, your table. What do you want? Miscellaneous women or past president? Miscellaneous. I'll give you an easy one because Dave wants some help. How many electors make up the Electoral College? Takes 270 to get elected. What's your number? 435 is the number of representatives in Congress. There's 100 senators, that makes 535. And then there's 3 electors from Washington, D.C., 538. Okay. Front table, Shannon. What do you want? Women presidents or miscellaneous? Miscellaneous. Okay. Albert Einstein was once offered, oh, this is my only multiple choice one. Albert Einstein was once offered the presidency of which country? Germany, Switzerland, Australia, or Israel?
We're gonna say Germany.
Albert Einstein was offered the presidency of Israel in 1952 after the death of their first president. He declined. He said that he did not have the requisite background to do that. Okay, Dennis, your table. Presidents. How many former U.S. presidents have been an only child?
Yeah, I think we get a multiple choice on that one.
Sure. It's a number between 1 and 20. No, it's not. It's a number between 0 and 20.
We'll guess 4.
Totally just gave you the answer. The answer is 0. I said it was between 1 and 20, and then I had to change it between 0 and 20. It's 0. No president has ever been an only child. And if that, no matter who gets elected this year, that won't happen again either. Okay. Dale, your table. Or Jen, your table. What do you want to do? Presidents or women? We're out of miscellaneous questions. All right. In 1893, which country became the first to give women the right to vote in 1893? Oh, I'll give you multiple choice. I lied. I had another one that was multiple choice. In 1893, which country became the first to give women the right to vote? England, Australia, New Zealand, or Finland? 1893. If you cheat, you have to pay their fee. It is New Zealand. What if, there's another interesting fact about New Zealand. That's where my daughter is currently serving her mission. for our church. Okay, you're supposed to know that too.
Yeah.
Okay, last table, Andy, save the hardest questions for you. Presidents? All right, here we go. That one's too easy. Here we go, Andy. Who was the first president born as a citizen of the United States? And if you get this one right, I got another one for you. Okay, I got another one for you. Martin Van Buren, the 8th president, was the first president of the United States. Bonus question for Andy's table. Who became both vice president and president without ever being elected to the White House? Ford. Gerald Ford. He became president when Nixon resigned and vice president when Spiro Agnew resigned, never elected to office. All right, if you had a good time, put a bunch of money in the pot. If you didn't, put more money in the pot. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Jennifer Graff will come up to introduce our program.
As you noted, this month was dedicated to women. Every one of our speakers were strong, beautiful women who had a lot to share with us. And we're ending up the month with some very great elected officials. So with that, I will let them introduce themselves. And first will be State Senator Chris Cournoyer.
All right, while she puts my presentation in, I am a member of North Scott Rotary, and I've enjoyed I really joined Rotary because of the speakers and the quality of speakers, so hopefully I can live up to that. And thank you. I've been your state senator here for District 35, which includes the northern part of Scott County, all of Clinton County, and now a little piece of Jackson County that includes Maquoketa, Baldwin, and Monmouth for 6 years. And this is my first opportunity to come and present to you. So thank you for finally getting the opportunity here. So this is a presentation that I've given to multiple Rotary clubs and a couple of women's groups that just gives a very brief legislative session review. That was over actually in April, but I want to make sure we have plenty of time for our Congresswoman to speak. So I'm going to buzz through this really quickly, and then if y'all have questions, we can follow up with some questions. So every 2 years we have an election in Iowa. This was the second year of the 90th General Assembly. We usually start the second Monday of January. The first session is 110 days. The second year is 100 days. And what that really means is that's when we stop getting paid. So it's amazing how quickly decisions get made when you stop getting paid, and the farmers in the legislature start getting really antsy when they start mowing around the Capitol too. So this year, I think we went to the April 19th, which is 103 days. So we only didn't get paid for 3 days. There were over 1,000 bills that were filed by both representatives, senators, and committees. 188 of those bills were passed in both chambers. Like I like to tell people, if you hear a bill that sounds absolutely outrageous and crazy, right here shows you that just over 10% actually get to the governor's desk, and then she has been known to veto bills as well. So I like to say that one of our most important jobs is killing bad bills, and a lot of times a representative will file a bill on behalf of a constituent based on a concern that they have, and it goes through the process, and sometimes it doesn't even get a subcommittee. So I tell people, before you light your hair on fire and jump out of the fifth store window, why don't we see if we get a subcommittee on this first? So that's that. So one of our most important, or what I would consider the most important responsibility that we have, is to pass a budget for the state. So this year's budget that started on July 1st for fiscal year 2025 was a $8.9 billion budget for the state of Iowa. That was just over a 4% increase. We've got a projected ending balance of over 2.4 billion. And then in our rainy day and taxpayer relief funds, we have over 4 billion. So you can see here that we are in a very good fiscal position for the state of Iowa, which I am very proud of. This is a pie graph that shows you where the money gets spent. And I know the text is very small on there, but you know, ask someone what their priorities are and you can see how they spend their money where their priorities are. So if you see the light blue, the big chunk on the right is state aid to schools, that's 43%. Then right below that is the educational savings accounts, which is about 2%. State universities and community colleges round that out to show over half of the budget goes to education in the state of Iowa. The orange is Medicaid and mental health. The kind of, I guess, light peach would be other Department of Health and Human Services. The green is corrections, and then we have property tax credits in the maroon, and then the rest of state government is just under 10%. So this is a very high level. There are several budgets, state budgets that we have. Representative Norland Momsen chairs the agriculture and natural resources budget. For 2 years, I chaired the education budget, but we have subcommittees that meet that go through all of these things. And I just wanted to kind of detail how much goes into each of those budgets for this year. We also have money that comes in from other funds, such as the casino money, for the RIF budget, which is infrastructure and technology. And then we also have the gas tax that goes into our transportation budget as well. So taxpayer protection. So just a couple highlights here. This year we put into effect the flat tax for the state of Iowa. So we have come down from 8 brackets to 1 bracket. 3.8% will be your state income tax going forward. And there's been a couple constitutional amendments that have been put forward, and how constitutional amendments happen in the state of Iowa is that they have to be passed by 2 consecutive general assemblies, and then they go to a vote of the people. So we had one that requires a supermajority to raise taxes, and then we also had another one that maintains that flat tax. So it passed this last session. We'll have an election in November, which will start a new General Assembly. If it passes that, then it would be eligible for a vote by the people in 2026 or 7. Do you know, Tom? 26 or 27. It'll be on your ballot. So watch for that. And then, of course, I'm really proud of the fact that there is no tax on retirement income or inheritance income. That's something that hopefully a few people in the crowd who have retired recently are enjoying the benefits of not paying taxes on their retirement income. And then we also removed that mental health levy from the backs of property taxpayers, and that is being funded through the state. Education. I know this is a lot, but education is kind of my wheelhouse as a former school board member, and I was really proud of the fact that we enhanced some penalties and accountability for school employees grooming and sexually exploiting students. Unfortunately, that happens way more than it should never happen, but it happens, and we needed to close a few loopholes that were happening in the system. Also increase the flexibility and accountability and quality of services for special education services delivered by the area education agencies. We increased teacher salary increase, so money from the state going to school districts that moves Iowa to the 5th highest in the country. So a first-year teacher would be starting at $47,000. And a teacher with 12 years of experience is $60,000. And we're still kind of working through the logistics of how the accounting works on that, but that's a good step in the right direction. And then also we reinstated an open enrollment deadline that was taken away a few years ago. I think that's going to help with some issues that we've had with truancy. That was a big topic at our forums last year, was an issue with chronic absenteeism with our students. So with that and one of our truancy bills, I hope that that'll help make sure that our kids are in school and they're learning and preparing for the next chapter after graduation. Right now, the state is going through a review of the state school curriculum and graduation requirements to make sure that they're in alignment and have some flexibility for what students need to know when they leave our K-12 education system. So that recommendation, I think, is coming out in December. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they have. And then at the bottom of the screen, we have continued expansion of an IJAC program for those at-risk kids, and really proud of the IJAC program at Clinton High School. The graduation rate, those are students that have barriers to graduation, and it really helps them with the support that they need to not only get to graduation, but also make a plan for after graduation and really kind of break that cycle of generational poverty that a lot of those students face. And I think, can I brag right now, Gary, that the graduation rate of the Clinton High School IJAC kids in 2023 was 100%? That's excellent. That's just outstanding. So great program. So healthcare, maternal health, mental health. I'll go through this quickly too. So we expanded Medicaid benefits to pregnant women to cover them for 12 months postpartum. It's really important that first year, especially women who suffer from postpartum depression, making sure that both mom and baby have the support and services that they need to get through that first year in a healthy way. We've enhanced that more options for maternal support moms program to help moms and dads, because babies don't make themselves, to make sure that they are given the supports that they need. And for that first 5 years, it's so important to a child's life. Also, there's a new behavioral health service system for mental health that we're working through that'll go into effect next year to help increase coordination among providers. I know we're experiencing some hiccups and some bumps in the Eastern Iowa region that we're working through with DHS right now. But we've increased funding to the intellectual disability waiver wait list to get some kids off those lists, and then also an $81 million increase to the Medicaid program. This is a lot, but again, I'm proud of some of the things that we did here this year. As you recall, that swatting incident at Clinton High School where somebody called in an active shooter to the high school and how frightening that was for everyone involved in the community. Turned out to be a fake report, but we've taken that very seriously and made it a serious crime in Iowa if you call in a fake reports to law enforcement. Also, we increased retirement benefits for sheriff and deputies, and then we have some regulation of hemp products. There's a real issue with kids getting hold of vape products and unregulated hemp products that have come out of some loopholes with the Farm Bill. So I'm now on the Rules Committee, which has been a lot of fun, but making sure that kids under 21 cannot get hold of CBD or hemp-infused beverages. And then also a vape directory that I'm told will go into effect on January 1st so that no vapor products that have not been reviewed by the FDA or on the list of the FDA are being sold. And this is something I'm really proud of because a lot of the kids from the Comanche DeWitt Coalition, and there were a lot of kids from Clinton on that group that came out to the Capitol and really advocated for making sure that these products are not marketed to children and that they are safely consumed by adults that know what, that there's some truth in that labeling as well. So I think we'll probably be seeing more on that. And then as the chair of the state Senate Technology Committee, I would be remiss to not talk about some of the great technology bills. A lot of the bills that we did this year really were updating current code to account for the use of technology in commission of those codes. So there was one for using the air tags that you use to find your keys and purse. Those were being used for stalking, made that a felony offense, and then also using artificial intelligence or software to create images that make someone look like they are in compromising positions, and people are using that to exploit or harass people. That is now a serious felony, and anyone that commits that crime will now be on the Tier 1 sex offender list. So there's some real teeth into that bill. And then I'm very proud of our public notice bill. All cities, counties, and any government public body has to put their public notices in the newspaper. And given that a lot of newspapers don't print as often as they used to, it can be problematic for our local government or state government to be able to function in an efficient way if the newspaper doesn't print on time. So now we made it so that it will still go to the newspaper, but also putting it online in front of the firewalls where everybody, not just people who have subscriptions to newspapers, can have access to those public notices. So I'm pretty proud of that. Other highlights, we improved the access to childcare, raising the reimbursement rate. That's a real problem with staff retention that we're continuing to have to address. You're probably aware of the regulation of speed cameras. I hear a lot of that from my friends in LeClaire that get tickets going over the Interstate 80 bridge. We also repealed the gender balance for Iowa boards and commissions so that people will be selected for those boards based on qualifications. And I think the issue there, I think that'll be good for especially those boards and commissions that are more one-sided in gender, and that it'll be more representative of the boards and commissions and populations that they represent. So I think that's a good improvement. And then I'm still keeping track of time. And don't ask me about the truth in meat and egg labeling, because I learned more about how meat is processed than I ever wanted to learn during that. So a few things, you know, right now we're in the interim. We go back in January and we're meeting with constituents and stakeholders and trying to figure out what your priorities are for next year. So these are just a few things that I'm hearing. I would love to see some sort of hands-free, right? We can't seem to agree at the legislative level. But you do see people driving around and they're distracted by their cell phones, and I would love to be able to put some teeth in the state law there. You probably noticed the school start date started on Friday this year because it's August 23rd every year, and I'd like to give school districts a little more flexibility on that, where it starts after the state fair, but also allows us to recover some of those school days, and so school doesn't start on a Friday. Other things, we've got some inequities that we have to address every year, one being per pupil inequity, and there's also an at-risk inequity that we have to address. We've heard a lot from schools about the importance of preschools, half-day and all-day programs. For half-day can be problematic for working parents, so trying to work through that. I get asked a lot as the technology chair about artificial intelligence, so that's something that we're certainly keeping an eye on, not necessarily something that's regulated at the state level, but something we're definitely keeping an eye on. And I've heard, just based on some meetings that I've been to, that it looks like we'll be looking at property taxes again, but I have no idea what that's going to look like. So we'll be probably listening to our local officials and working with them to see what that looks like. Hi, Dustin. Hi, Jim. I see you there. Yeah. So with that, I'll take any questions and then I can pass it off to our Congresswoman. Is there any questions? I know I went through that really quick. So no questions. Yes, ma'am.
Why were license plates and puppy mills together? What is?
Well, so we passed a really strong animal abuse bill a couple of years ago because Iowa did not have a lot of teeth in our animal abuse bills. But I've had a lot of people that have approached me. There are some bad actors in the puppy mill space where the animals aren't being taken care of the way they should be. Last year, I introduced a license plate that had a paw print on it where the money would go to supporting the investigations of those puppy mills. And it didn't go anywhere because there are about 91 license plates in the state of Iowa, and the transportation chair wanted to do an inventory of what we have and what we don't need before we start adding license plates. But that was something that was a topic. We want to address these bad actors in the puppy mill space, and it may or may not come up again this year. Another option that was recommended to us that maybe the funding from that license plate would go to support what those animals that are rescued from those bad operations, because they take a lot of care to get them out of those neglect and abuse situations. So that might be an option, or spay and neutering programs or something like that. So I had to put that in there because my dog was the official spokesdog of the the free band bill. So there you go. I got a blue reference. Yes, sir.
One other question. Cook County Bar has been increasingly concerned about payment of fees for defense. In some states, folks who are charged fines have not been able to have legal counsel. The charges are actually paid. Is there a concern at the state level and how might we?
Yeah, we hear a lot from the judicial branch and from the Bar Association, and we did raise those rates this year. It wasn't as much as it needed to be, but I think, you know, we have to kind of do these things incrementally, but it's definitely an issue, especially for a border community like us, where we border with Illinois and the rates are much higher in Illinois. So people are just going to go spend their time and resources over there instead of providing indigent defense over here in Iowa. So that's something that we're going to continue to look at. We raised it a little bit this year, but we need to continue to increase that incrementally so we can be competitive and make sure that those people are being defended and those cases aren't being dismissed. Thank you for the question. Yes, ma'am.
Public notices. So it's okay to put them online now, but you still have to put them in the paper?
Yeah, they still, that was our compromise. So they do still go to the paper because people do still read the paper and look at those public notices in the back. But an issue that I had, I don't get a paper, so I was unable to access public notice information that I was looking for. And so we want to make sure those that still get papers can look at it in the paper, but those that do not receive the paper can still search and even subscribe to those public notices online and have full access to that. Because the point of the public notice is that the public knows what is the government's doing. So having those online as an option, I think, is important. So you'll put it in the newspaper, but you'll also put it online, and that will cover your public notice requirements, so you're not missing deadlines. So, all right. So, okay. Well, thank you very much. Thank you again for having me. It is an honor to serve you. Here's my information if you ever want to ask questions or get hold of me. So I'll do this. Close it. Oh, okay. And I guess I have the honor of introducing our Congresswoman, Marinnette Miller-Meeks, and I'll let you take it from here. How's that?
I'm glad I have no slides because some people really pay attention. That's a compliment. But it's great to be here with you. And Jennifer, thank you so much for the salad. I'm going to lower this projector or you will never see me. Power tumbling, trampoline gymnastics, and I would drive her up to Iowa Gymnast when we were in Iowa City, so she continued. And her daughter was my daughter's coach, so that's pretty cool. You never know what you're gonna run into and whose lives you're gonna impact. It's great to be here with Senator Cournoyer. We were in the state senate together, and to hear the continuation of things that we actually started. We were both senators, oral contraception over the counter, the things that we were doing things for lawful permanent residents to be able to have access to Medicaid rather than the 5-year waiver period. What you're doing for mental health, behavioral health, and passed a bill for behavioral health, for schools to be a site of service for behavioral health. We were able to pass that in one session for parents who either, they're working, they can't get their child to bring them to an appointment, to be able to have that in school and to respect the HIPAA laws. So a lot of work has been done. I wish I could say at the federal government that we passed our budget. We're still trying. At the federal level, we have 12 different single appropriations, goes through, the committees will have all mark up all their bills, and then they'll go to the subcommittee on appropriations and the appropriations committee, then to the House floor, amendments will be offered, then it goes to the Senate, and it's called the Four Corners. They all get together, and then it usually comes back to the House. When you don't do that process, which hasn't been done in over 20 years, then you have a big omnibus, or as we had last year, 2 omnibuses. But at least I can say that 8 of those 12 single department appropriations bills actually went through the process of going through the appropriate committee, then through the appropriations subcommittee that handles that department, then the appropriations committee. So, and then through the floor with amendments added. So that's how the process is supposed to work. It's challenging to do that, and the federal timeline is not concurrent with the state timeline. So the federal government timeline is October 1st until September 30th. So our timelines are shifted. When you think about it in the House, it's an every 2-year election cycle. So by the time you're sworn in, which is around January 3rd, then both parties have to determine what are the number of members going to be on a committee. All of those committees then have to be set up. The people on the committee, the chair of the committee, that takes you until about March for the committees to be set up and arranged to where they can start doing their business. So already by March, you're now starting business by something you want to get done by September 30th. So you can see that the timeline works against us, and there's a lot of conversation last year about changing that timeline and or the federal fiscal year, so it's more in alignment either with the calendar year or with the states and what the states do. I think I can talk forever, but probably what's most important is to listen to your question. We have passed 6 single subject appropriations bills. Obviously, September 30th is today. And we are not in Washington DC voting on a big budget, on 12 single subject appropriations. So last week we passed a continuing resolution to fund the government up until December 20th. I will tell you, continuing resolutions aren't my favorite thing to do, and that's because I think that all entities, whether it's military, whether it is departments, and the funding that then goes all the way downstream, people need to have certainty of their funding. It's very hard to plan, and it is very hard to plan ahead. So for instance, right now I was in a combine before I came here. That's why, so I'm not being disrespectful that I didn't dress better, but I got out of the combine and drove here, and I did not see any patrol on Interstate 80 or 61, so thank goodness. Otherwise I might have been a little later. But at any rate, it's very hard, you know, our farm bill, we were supposed to reauthorize it last year. It's every 5 years. It's always difficult to pass the farm bill. It is always a challenge. It's always a heavy lift. The majority of the farm bill is nutrition programs, but there's very important stuff in for our farmers. Farmers are having a very tough time right now. They told us last year that this would be a tough year. Right now, corn is under $4 and soy is under 10. That's, you know, very dangerous territory for farmers. So, and the administration's done nothing on trade in 4 years. And so there's a lot of trade stuff in the farm bill, crop insurance, water quality conservation programs, and then animal disease surveillance, vaccines, animal disease testing. All of that's in the farm bill. So we've been working very hard to get it across. And I wish I could say we had it across so our farmers could plan for next year. It will probably come up in the lame duck session. However, in the continuing resolution, there were a lot of the farm programs were in the continuing resolution. So we know that those are going to go forward. So passed the continuing resolution, passed a lot of counter to the Chinese Communist Party, especially when it comes to purchasing of farmland. That's a very big deal in Iowa, as well as throughout the country, especially where farmland is being purchased near military bases, and there is a lot of sensitive conversations, equipment, training exercises that go on. So that's what we've done the past couple of weeks, and I think I'm going to stop there. Other than to say one of the things that that really is, it's not big, huge legislation, but one of the things members of Congress can do is to speak on the floor of the House. So every day that we're in session, we have an opportunity to speak on the floor of the House. And I typically speak about Iowans. So in 2022, Iowa had 5 Olympians, Paralympians in our district. And I would speak about them, and members of Congress said, where do you get all these Olympians and Paralympians? Because people don't know. Sometimes you'll speak about the death of someone who is important in the community, a humanitarian. Sometimes you'll speak about the local, track team or football team or soccer team, or the University of Iowa women's wrestling team. But it is a real pleasure to be able to speak and highlight your district and your state to Congress, and that gets entered into the congressional record. Just last week, I have a veteran turning 100 years old, married to his wife, who is going to turn 100 years old, and they just celebrated their 81st wedding anniversary. World War II vet, paratrooped at 19, fighting 4 months after marrying his wife into Europe. So it's an amazing story to highlight Iowans. The other thing we get to do, and this is new, it started in 2021, and that is community project funding. Community project funding is where your members of Congress can receive applications from their district, from members in their district, both typically government entities, educational facilities, which we did one with North Scott High School. We've done them with the community colleges. We've done roads and bridges, and very pleased that the submission by Clinton for the North End, that application made it all the way through the process. So members of Congress are directing where some of that appropriations money will go in that annual budget. And so we've had a couple of submissions. It's been hard to get some of them across, but we were very thrilled that this one got across. And with that, I'll take questions. Yes, sir.
Thank you for meeting with me at your office in DC in May. And we had a chance to talk specific, as you know, I'm the only one on the policy committee of the National Association of Realtors who talked specifically about an idea that can help first-time home buyers, especially in rural America. And it has, the bill's being drafted. I think the final draft of the bill will be done at the end of October. And zero, the fiscal statement from Congressional Budget Office, zero. This isn't taking money from the federal government, moving in here and then saying, oh, good, it's changing the rules. And the chair of the committee, Sacramento, was very angry and said, what you're doing only helps rural America. And I said, great, glad to hear that, thank you. So anyway, and you know, and after I met with you, I went over and met with Tracy, and then he called me in July for an update. We've gone through that, so Tracy Mann's very aware, and he's chair of the co-chair of the Congressional Realtors Caucus, and stuff's been coming back your direction here here within the month with a specific thing that will help first-time home buyers in rural America.
And there's not a place I go within the district where housing is not a problem and issue, and that's affordable housing. We know government regulations adds about 25% to the cost, whether it's multifamily, whether it's single family, but it adds to the cost. So looking at the regulatory apparatus is one of the things that we have to do. But in addition to that, promoting good programs that allow that investment to occur, and that will be able to sustain itself, not you know, you send in federal money, it can't sustain, there's not a market for it. So being able to have that locally driven, and it was a pleasure to be able to meet with you. And I think that's one of the things that Senator Cournoyer said when she just talked with you. And that was almost all the bills that we've introduced come from meeting with our constituents, whether it's in DC. I'm known to meet with people. So if you're from the district, if you're from the state, I will bend over backwards to meet with you. Or we meet with people when we're in district, although honestly, 2/3 of our time is in DC or traveling on official business. So most of the time we're in Washington, DC. But was very pleased that you presented that bill to us and that it's or the idea to us, which is now already, you know, transformed itself into a bill, and we'll be able to vote on that when we go back in November. So thank you. Yes, ma'am.
You speak to how easy or difficult for Congress to pass a 25% unrealized capital gain tax.
I think that it would be extraordinarily difficult to pass an unrealized capital gain. Does everybody know what that is? Number one, it's a bad idea. So I'm just going to be honest here. It is a very bad idea. I'm not being political, it's just a bad idea. So, you know, tax on unrealized capital gains. So how many of you have a 401k or TIA prep if you're in education or state? Okay, the majority of you have. You will see at any given point in time when you get your quarterly statement, you may have a gain, you may have a loss. And so taxing unrealized capital gains, these are not gains that are paid out to you. This is the potential for a gain that you have not realized, meaning you haven't taken the money out. Taxing that gain, number one. So number one is going to be hard to do. It's going to require lots of bookkeeping and upkeep, which the IRS may or may not be at this point able to do. Number two, what happens if you have a loss? Are they going to give you a refund? I'm going to say no, they're not going to give you a refund. Now, how does this also relate? So that's stocks or your portfolio or your pension. How does that work with the teacher's pension? How does that work with the union? That, you know, is they have a pension set aside for their members. You know, how does that work? Are they going to take money from their union members to then pay the unrealized gain? And then what happens when there's a loss? It is extraordinarily complex, and it's a dumb idea. And you are not going to get anything back if you have a loss. Now, that's just when it's, you know, stocks, bonds, the market. What happens in real life for people? Let's say that I bought my first home when I was 22. I was in the military. 22 years, I was trying to buy a home in Washington DC. I sure as heck wish I'd have done that. Because it would have had a lot of gain. But I wasn't smart enough at 20 to do it. Bought my first home when I was 22. I sold it 2 years later when the Army reassigned me. Didn't have a huge gain. It was a couple $1,000s. But if you're taxed on unrealized gain, what happens when you sell a property? So if the value of your little starter home is going up, are you taxed every year on the value that's going up? And what happens, like in 2008, if there's a market crash and the value goes down, but every year you had to pay for an increase in the assessment of that property. So it is extraordinarily problematic. And when it comes to farmers, that means you're having to withdraw money out instead of purchasing new equipment, fixing new equipment, hiring somebody. You're now paying tax on the value of your farm going up, or you're a small business owner. And let me tell you, there is no one that works harder than a small business owner. No, I'm a small business owner. I know you go without pay. Sometimes it's 2 weeks, sometimes it's several months. You go without pay to pay your staff to keep people on board. You're not working a 40-hour week. You're working 60, 80, 100-hour week. You don't go on vacation. When you go on vacation, you got to double up the week before. You got to double up the week you come back. You don't sleep, and you have all the anxiety, and I know firsthand. Your people that you employ are your assets, and you worry most about them. Can you keep them in a job? Can you keep them employed? Can you keep them benefits? So this has a tremendous effect on a small business and the capacity of a small business to grow. And there is no Fortune 500 company that does not start out as a small mom and pop or one person with an idea that grows a company. Hard work. So that's a great question. Yes, sir.
Congresswoman, I think a lot of people wish there are elected whether they're Republican or Democrats, I know from time to time who have done that and criticized. I wonder if you could comment on how would you like to do a better job talking and all of it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that's the most challenging, and so we do have to look at redistricting and how we redistrict. Iowa does a really good job of that, but it's even more than that. I think the impact of social media, the impact of 24-hour news. I didn't go to Washington DC to blow up social media or become a figure on your television station at night. I went to Washington DC to do the same thing I did in the Army, the same thing I did as a nurse, and the same thing I did as a doctor, and that was to solve problems. And in order to solve problems, you have to talk to one another. And so I'm part of a bipartisan group, Core Country Caucus, which is bipartisan military veterans. So we talk about national security things, we talk about drone warfare, we talk about getting SIVs. One of our first things we did when I came into Congress in 2021 was trying to get special immigrant visas, SIVs, for our Afghan interpreters and those who worked with our military members to get them into the United States or out of Afghanistan before Afghanistan was departed. So it can be tough. I'm also part of a group that looked at joining Problem Solvers Caucus, but I work with the bipartisan Climate Caucus. I'm chair of the Conservative Climate Caucus. And therefore, we work together a lot. I go out to former Senator Mary Landrieu's house, Democrat in Louisiana, talking about where we have common ground on these issues, where we know we have to have affordable, abundant, reliable, secure energy, and working at how do we navigate through that process while reducing emissions for a cleaner, healthier planet. So it's tough. It can be done. You just have to make the effort, and you're right. You do get criticized for that. I'm one of the most bipartisan members of Congress. So I think that's all the time I have, so I apologize. Invite me back. I'll be happy to come back and spend more time with you. The food was great, the company even better. Thank you so much.
Before we let you go, we do have a book. Our club donates a book to our Clinton Public Library on behalf of our speaker each week, so we'll have you sign that. Got it.
Well, since reading is my favorite activity, I'm This is a real honor. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks to everyone for being here today, all of our special guests and our speakers. We've had a really great month of attendance and participation, so Rotary loves being the convener for these meetings. So thank you so much for being here and experience the magic of Rotary. Experience such a great adoption. Love it.
Good job.
Yeah.